Hello everyone, PallyTime here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my new favorite series here on the channel, Mother Game Time! Today we're going to be taking a look at V Rising, the newest game to be released by Stunlock Studios. It was initially released into early access on May 17th, 2022. It has a very positive rating right now with over 25,000 reviews on Steam. And since its release, it's just been gaining traction and gaining popularity. And even 3 weeks after release, it is still holding a spot in the top 10 most played games on Steam. I did have a chance to play this a little bit on stream earlier this week, and I just wanted to catch you guys up to speed a little bit on what the game is about. Remember, if you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to slap that like button down below. If we get 1,200 likes on this video, we may just continue our coverage of this game. So you guys decide, it's up to you. Now, this is not Stunlock Studios' first game. Way back in 2016, they released Battle Right. It initially launched as a free-to-play MOBA-inspired battle royale, where you would control a character. You could do things like play a mage and lob spells, be a big hulking melee combatant and run in and smash things, or anything in between. Unfortunately, it does look like Battle Right is no longer being supported, but that tight combat and a lot of those concepts are reflected inside of V Rising as well. For instance, in order to play V Rising, you have to play online, either by connecting to someone else's servers, either a PvE, PvP, or full loot PvP. If your character dies, the killer can take everything off of your corpse. Or you can host a private game for your friends to connect to, obviously hosting dedicated servers to have a persistent world. Either way, you're going to be connecting online in some way. For the purposes of today's video, we're going to be making a PvE server for me to play on and show off some of the base game mechanics. But if you guys are interested, I have a friend who's dying to check out the PvP. We could certainly do that. I know looking at menus isn't the most exciting thing, but I wanted to draw your attention to the advanced game settings. I really love how fine-tuned the experience seems to be in this game. For instance, if you like crafting but don't necessarily want to deal with the inventory management, there's a slider for that. This game has a day-night cycle, and you know, because we're vampires, going out in the day can be quite deadly, but you can just make it so the days are very short. For instance, replicating what a winter in the frozen north might be like with its sunlight. And I just like that all this is here. It really lets you fine-tune what you want to do. When you start your game, the first thing you're going to have to do is make your character. You can change your body type as well as a variety of skin tones and hair colors. Let's put something together real fast. This is my favorite character design. This is Chompers. Wait a minute, she's not perfect yet. There we go. What's not to love, bro? What's not to love? As you load into the game, you're of course going to be inside of a coffin where all good vampires reside. And this is where you start to see, in my opinion, the MOBA and ARPG aspects of the game already. For instance, WASD moves us around, but look at the isometric camera. We can also hold down right-click to move this around as well. And we start the game with 3 basic abilities. One being a dodge on our spacebar that allows us to dash and leaves behind a clone for our enemies to fight. The other is a ranged spell that we can shoot off at our adversary on our R key. And the last is a counter attack. If anyone attacks us while we are channeling that, we're going to do a big explosion and hit them back. I'll show you. Hey there, skeleton. Nice and easy. He's going for the swing, but we hit the counter. So we didn't take any damage there. We knocked him back and actually healed our character at the same time. Now, let's say he's coming in again, but we don't have... Oh, no, he hit me. If we don't have our counter, we can simply make that image in front of him to distract him for a little bit and then wait for that cooldown to come back so we can do it again. Once he dies, he is going to drop some resources on the ground. Fighting enemies to collect stuff that they have is a core part of this game. This time I dashed into melee rather than using the clone there. We have a quest at the top left that is going to be kind of guiding us through the early part of the game. As long as you're paying attention to that even a little bit, you're going to have a pretty good experience. Basically, as we've been killing these skeletons and zombies like this dude with a spear cut through his chest, Or is that just a steak? We've been accumulating some resources, these bones, namely, that these guys are dropping. Well, if I hit tab and then go to the crafting tab at the top, we can then craft a bone sword using the resources that we have found. This bone sword is going to be a more effective weapon than my hands for taking down adversaries, so we just got our first combat upgrade. And now we can rock right up to these guys and give them a piece of our mind. Eventually, we'll hit the end of the cemetery and get a look at the map of the game. And as you can see, it's pretty sprawling. We can choose to either spawn on the eastern or western sides of the southern ends of the map, but it is a big map, which, by the way, is why I suggest you don't really stick around to the start. I'm going to aim for this area in the center here. I like this spot. So spawning on the left side, I'm just going to start walking northeast. Now, luckily for us, it is still nighttime in this forest, so we have a lot of shade and a lot of easy places for us to hide, but eventually that will change. We'll also start to encounter some more wildlife. As you can see, these wolves have a drastically different moveset from the skeletons that we were fighting inside of the graveyard. So learning which each enemy does is going to be an important part of your playstyle, especially if you're trying to counter enemies with our C ability. What I just did there was feed off of the corpse of that dog. Now, or that wolf, excuse me. Let's be respectful. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't a prime specimen of the species. You'll notice that once you get enemies low, a percentage number shows up next to their health bar. This is a 2%. That means I'm going to get a very small buff from consuming this enemy. If we wanted to seek out better examples of a creature, we could get way big increases to our movement speed, increased stun resistance, damage reduction, increased health regeneration, and then if we find a really good one, boosting all of those effects even more. However, any buff is better than no buff. I don't feel too bad about biting that creature. These poachers on the road would give a different effect if I fed off of them than what the creatures gave. So finding the right enemy and getting the right buff to fit your playstyle may be a core component. I wanted to show you that feed there because I already have a buff on me, but I was able to use the feed to instantly take down one of these enemies and essentially execute them. Nice knockback there just by left clicking during the animation. I don't get the power for that, but I do get to remove that enemy instantaneously, so it is a really good strategy to keep on the tool belt. We have a bear pushing in from the left side here as well, but this guy just stunned me. He's going for a swing. I'm going to counter. The bear is getting involved now, and this is another thing I really enjoy about this game. Factions inside of the world can fight each other. So this started out with just me picking on a couple of poachers, but now this bear is getting involved, and you can see it actually took a little bit of the attention off of me because, of course, that poacher wants to kill him. But now we have an opening to feed and retain a better buff. Now, my health is starting to get low. My blood vial is in the middle. This is how much food is in my stomach. Think about it that way. I can decide to sacrifice some of that and use blood mend by pressing control, and that will take away from my blood pool, but start to heal my character back up to full health. As we take damage in combat, our maximum HP is actually going to be lowered, so breaking combat and finding time to heal is an important skill to have. While we're running to our destination, I can also craft myself some better gear using some of the bones we found in the cemetery, as well as some of the animal hide off of the creatures that we have been slaying in the forest. I wasn't ready to run into you! Ouch! It's a 100% rogue buff. I've never seen that before. Whoa, that feels good. Hey, thanks, poacher. Thank you. Now, unfortunately, we've been out a long time and the sun is starting to come out. Now, I'm not instantly going to be burned, but I do have to make sure that I stick to the shade of these trees. Now, this is actually a mechanic I really like because as time progresses, the shadows are actually going to move to reflect where the sun is at in the sky. So I may be safe to stand right here right now, but that may not be the case in 10 minutes in real life time. I actually don't know how long the day-night cycle goes. If we dip out into the sun a little bit too long, you'll notice that we start to kind of get overblown. The light is a little too much for us to handle. And if we really push our luck, we will rapidly be burned to death by the sun's rays. So fighting in these limited spaces during the day can add a lot of tension to fights. I've also found that it makes you pay attention a lot more to the actual terrain. Now all of a sudden I'm using my combat dash to make sure I'm sticking to the shade rather than just rolling around in combat with it. Now, armor and weapons aren't the only thing that you can craft. I crafted myself this pair of axes, which actually allows me to cut down trees and gather resources. But notice as you cut down trees, you're also actively removing the shade you need to stay alive. Yet another reason you have to really think about what you're doing. I can also make a mace that gathers stone, and notice any weapon can actually gather a resource. It's just if I'm using the correct weapon on a resource, I'll get a better yield. So maces are for hitting stone and collecting rock, or this copper here, which I might be able to get. Yes, indeed I can. Whereas the axe is better for lumberjacking, and the sword and that is actually better for picking up these plant fibers around the map. I've heard this game explained to me as Vampire Valheim before I tried it out, and I think there's a very good reason for that. Now, very soon I intend on going after some very difficult enemies to show you one of my favorite parts of the game. But first, I'm going to show you another cornerstone of the game and another one of my favorite parts. We're going to build a base for our vampire to live in. Eventually, this base can become an entire castle if we want it to be. But there are some local dogs trying to stop me from doing just that. Let's counterattack. There we go, big AoE. One detail I really like is, do you see this pedestal thing in the middle here? In the opening trailer for this game, they say that vampires used to rule this land until the humans rose up and pushed them out. Well, this thing I just destroyed is actually a castle heart. So the location we are in was a former vampire dwelling, and I think that's a really cool touch, we can build borders with blood essence as well as stone. Blood essence is gathered just from killing an enemy, and the stone using a mace and hitting rocks nearby. These borders are basically the size that I'm allowed to build in right now, and this will drastically expand as we level up our fortifications. The castle heart itself is like the power core of your building, and it does require blood essence to stay fueled. If this runs out of blood, your entire structure will start to decay. The decay of this can be edited in your server settings, and at the beginning it kind of seems kind of alarming, but look how slowly this is actually consuming just one blood. As long as you're playing the game and going out into the world, you'll be able to maintain this no problem, unless at least in a PvE setting. Spent a little bit of time building out the base. You can see I have a couple sawmills in place as well as a basic workbench. With that, I managed to craft myself the plated armor, which is a direct upgrade over what we have before. I also have some reinforced weaponry to assist us in battle as well. The most recent thing that I crafted is the blood altar. And this leads into some of the most compelling content in this game, in my opinion. We'll start off simple by going after an alpha wolf. If we take down this target, we will unlock a new power. This power allows us to turn into a wolf. So traversing this massive map can be a little hard to do. However, if we unlock this power from the alpha wolf, wherever they are, we're basically unlocking a mount for our character. How we find them is by selecting our target on the blood altar and then following the essence of their blood across the map. To my knowledge, there's no way of... Oh, there he is. To my knowledge, there's no way of seeing where they are on the map other than following the essence to look for them. Well, unfortunately for him, it does look like he is fighting alone today, so let's kite him. Here's my spell. Just missed his feet, unfortunately. He's charging forward, so I'm going to do a counter attack there. Dash to the side to get him to look at my clone and fire off another ranged attack. If he goes to charge, we counter again, healing back up. He's at about a third of his HP, and he's very mobile. Now, don't worry. I think I can win this fight. It seems like he's resting right now, but he has caught his breath and has summoned in a couple allies to assist him. These guys charging, I can counterattack that, then fall back to hit them with some spells. Do an instant feed execute on one of these smaller wolves. Oh, I need to counter. There we go. Dash to the side, and it looks like Poacher's actually moving in here too. They are attacking the wolves for the time being, but I don't know how long they're going to be doing that. I want to feed. Oh, I couldn't get in position to do it. This wolf is starting to run wild. There is a thief on the road, but I take him out instantly. And now we are going to counter his next attack and then try to feed on his heart if I can. Oh, looks like it's... There we go. There we go. Hold F to extract blood. Now, by taking down this high priority target, we have unlocked this power for our character forever. And to use this, all you have to do is press control, and now we can shift into wolf form to move around the map much faster. But this is only the beginning. Bro, what happened here? Just bones and animal hide and broken stones in every direction. This is why I think the factions fighting amongst themselves in the game is really neat. It was probably these armored skeletons that moved through and took out something that was going on there, just like those poachers attacked us on the road while we were fighting the alpha wolf. Spent a little bit more time working on the base. We have our main door that opens down the ramp to lead to the east, which I actually think is pretty cool. We're kind of fortifying the cliffside here. And then on the other side, we also have a back entrance that I've been using to get a lot of the resources here. This just empties out onto our kind of raised island and allows me to go get stuff. I have really enjoyed the building in this game up until this point. By the way, these wooden walls can totally be refurbished later on into a much more sturdy stone. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to keep following the main journal tutorial to do that. However, I'm kind of at a sticking point, and it was this sticking point that was kind of like the aha moment for me in this game. This is when I started to really fall for V Rising, and I'll show you why. Our Castle Heart needs 12 copper bars as well as 12 leather in order to be upgraded. However, I cannot currently make the crafting area to refine that animal hide into leather. In order to do that, I'm actually going to have to hunt down another one of these targets. And you can see our rewards for doing this is a power we don't know about, as well as a tannery structure and a few other things that we can craft. So if we shift into our dog form and start to roll out following this blood essence, it'll lead us right to our target. And it looks like, yes, this is the place. I am inside a massive bandit stronghold and a little outnumbered at the moment. A little sketched out at the moment. However, there are some things we can do to help our odds here. I probably shouldn't have run in this deep, but here we go. The bear has been freed. That'll start us out. I can get some cleaving attacks going here as well and back out. I'm going to have to take down a lot of these guards to gain access to this place. Now, I could have come in here a bit quieter. I could have singled out some targets and tried to take them down individually. However, I think this shows just how fun the combat can be. And it's also to prove a point for a little bit later on. Don't worry, we have a purpose for this. Now, this is not actually killing the bandit we're after, but taking these guys out means we're going to have a little bit more room to play. Unfortunately for me, the sun is coming up really soon, though. So this guy with the shield, whenever that's glowing, if I attack him, that's going to be a stun against me. We don't want that. So if I can kill this guy first before taking down the rest of the bandits, that should make my job a little easier. But of course, Keely, the Frost Archer, is fighting against us as well now. We can do an instant feed takedown on the guy with the shield and start to deal some damage to our main target. Keep an eye on the clock at the top right, where we are literally almost into daylight here. Now, kiting around this particular mage isn't that big of a deal. One thing I really like is by defeating this target, I'm going to spoil it, we gain her main attack ability. Look how she's attacking me. She's trying to hit us up with a multiple freeze attacks to get me locked down. Well, we get an attack very similar to hers if we defeat her. So this is almost like a mini tutorial on how to use the ability we get from her. Okay, we're fighting in the daylight now. I shouldn't have to tell you that this is pretty sketchy, especially when we're fighting against a class that wants to stay away from me. But I've seen the pattern of her arrow shot enough times now. I should be able... Oh, maybe not. Maybe a little overconfident. Let's see if we can bring her inside somewhere, because of course these big tents are enterable, and I don't think she's forgotten about me just yet. Unfortunately, it was occupied. Counter onto the trapper to try to take him out as Keely enters the room as well. If I hit the guy with the shield during a certain effect, we're going to be stunned. And if I don't take down that trapper, he's going to root us in place constantly. Both are very deadly effects versus this particular enemy. But I think my health is holding so far. With that attack, we can probably feed off of this guy. Yes, we can. And now we're in a 1v1 inside of my element, the shade. I should be able to just circle around the archer relatively well enough to secure this kill. Come on, where are you hiding? Here we go. Extract the blood.
I messed up.
Now, by taking this target down, we unlocked a new ability. This is specifically a frost ability. This is Frost Bat. And you'll see down here on my bar, I have a few slots where I can mix and match various things. For instance, if you didn't like the counter effect that we've been using, all you have to do is pull our new ability onto that slot, and now Frostbat has been put onto our bar. This is just one of the trees, though, and we unlock these mysterious abilities by hunting down strong opponents all over the map. There is a frost tree as well as a chaos, illusion, unholy, and blood. Blood is where we have the majority of our default powers from. I thought this was really cool, but where I'm going to go next completely changed how I was playing the game. Now that we finished that quest, we can start to drop some tanneries on the ground. You know what? I'm going to build one more sawmill just to be safe. But this is what the building's like. You can rotate items really easily, place them where you want it. It's pretty straightforward. I think the extra sawmill was a little overkill. I'm just gonna destroy it. But nice and easy. See, nothing to it. And just like that, the tannery has processed all of this raw animal hide into leather. That is a higher tier, much more valuable resource. Now we can go over to the heart and upgrade this to level 2. This has increased our border potential from 30 tiles to 80. Remember when I said this place was going to get a lot bigger? I was not exaggerating. Okay, this is when the game was starting to click for me. I was starting to make sense until I went over to the simple workbench and saw that the next tier of equipment for me to build. The next item level upgrade is going to be copper materials. And as you can see, I really don't have that much copper just yet. If I open up the map, we can actually get a little bit of insight into all of the areas that we have explored, these yellow circles on the map. Starting from the teleporter and then moving northeast, we uncovered quite a few locations. Some of these offer paper, which we need for research, animal hide. This has some morning lilies that we might need, but the Bandit Copper Mine, directly west of where we are residing, is an awesome place. I'm going to go with Frostbat as our ranged ability and keep our blood counter as we're going in here. There we go. Perfect. This copper mine is a huge area. And when I showed up here with my friend, it was right as the sun was rising. So we had to immediately run inside, and we didn't really know what to expect. I want you to notice that throughout most of our gameplay so far, a lot of what I've been doing is single target focused. I'm kind of picking an enemy. Oh, I'm holding this too long. I'm kind of picking an enemy and deciding the best time to strike, trying to isolate targets from one another, and then going in for the execute. Keep this in mind. After fighting for what feels like forever, we started to notice just how much copper was inside of this copper mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is just the beginning. As we push in deeper, we saw even more, but overseeing this entire operation is Errol the Stonebreaker. And we do have a mission to take him out. We can track him with the bloodboard as well, but or the blood pedestal, whatever it's called. But I had not done that, and I didn't do it today up until this point. So this was a big surprise when we got here. His attack is like a shockwave that sends out a lot of energy with it. And I didn't think too much of this at the time. However, if you step inside of any of those particle effects, you're going to start to take a pretty substantial amount of damage over time. However, once I actually defeated him, just like right now, and extracted his blood, I was very excited to see that that very attack that I have been dodging this entire fight is indeed the one we get for killing him. This is chaos magic. I'm going to immediately swap out that frost thing that we had before. Remember when I said everything was single target up until this point? Well, let's just grab every enemy that I can find. We went from taking down one enemy at a time to now sending out this massive trail that does damage over time to every single enemy that gets caught inside of it. This was the moment that I realized that I didn't know anything about this game yet. I don't know what's possible. I don't know what isn't, but customizing my character to do stuff like this, bro, this is super compelling. Now, this is a great example of a skill that I don't think would be that good in PvP, but as you can see, as a PvE build, it allows me to just rip right through the bulk of most enemies. And that's where my first impressions are going to conclude. I like the base building, I like the combat, and I like that there seems to be a lot more ahead of me. This map is huge. We have a bunch of powers that we have not unlocked yet. And, well, like I said, if you guys want to see more of V Rising, let's get this video to 1,200 likes within the first week, and we shall continue. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Looks like it's time for me to get back to my base. Let us know down in the comments if you've picked up this game yet and what your thoughts are, or if you haven't played it yet, just what you think from what you've seen today. Remember to subscribe if you're new, and a very big thank you to our channel members for financially supporting our content. Take care, guys. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.